This week, we want to continue laying the foundation of marketing by looking at consumer markets. Our understanding of the consumer market requires us to have some understanding about the psychology of humans, and more specifically in looking at that from a perspective of consumer behavior. Consumer behavior is defined as the study of how individuals, groups, and organizations select, buy, use, and dispose of goods, services, ideas, or experiences to satisfy their needs or wants. A better way of looking at that, though, is that consumer behavior focuses on how consumers make purchase decisions. Before we discuss the social, cultural, and personal factors that influence consumer behavior, which will be discussed in the next lecture, we need to understand the process that consumers go through when making a purchase decision. Think back to the last major purchase you made, whether it was a house, car, clothes, whatever. You likely followed the 5 steps here. You first realized that you needed something, gathered information on the type of product that would solve the problem, or sought out various options that you could select from. Then you evaluated these options, made the purchase decision, and after acquiring the product, you evaluated the entire experience. Marketers seek to influence you at every step of this process. Let's examine each of these steps. The first step in the buyer decision-making process begins with problem recognition, or also known as need recognition. Now, when we talk about needs here, we're looking at it from a very general sense. And while a need could be food, water, and shelter, a need could also be a new car, a snow shovel, or even a vacation. From a psychological standpoint, a need is the absence of something. Needs can be classified in many different ways. For example, you could have a functional need, such as needing new tires on your car. Or you could have a social need, which is the type of a product that will resolve one's desire to fit in, such as new clothes or buying a new car before your high school reunion. Or you can also have a need that is a need for change, such as when you just look around your house and you're tired of seeing the furniture, you just go out and you buy new furniture. But keep in mind that if there is no need, there can be no purchase. However, just having a need does not ensure that a purchase is going to be made either. Think about a Monday morning. You look outside and you realize it snowed 12 inches overnight. At the time, you might wish that you had contacted with a service to come plow your driveway. So here you clearly have a need, but if you knew that the price was $100 every time they came out, you might not place too high of an importance on having someone else take care of the snow. So you put on your snow boots, your snow pants, grab your shovel, and off you go. Now, marketers can manipulate, and I hate using that word, but it's just the best word right now, is marketers can manipulate our needs, especially the need recognition. For example, think about the last time you walked into a mall and the smell of a Cinnabon filled the air. Or you walk into a movie theater and the first thing you smell is the popcorn. This is triggering our needs. It's triggering what's going on with us. Now, oftentimes we can look at needs basically from an internal perspective, such as it's noon, you're hungry, your stomach rumbles, and you realize you haven't had lunch yet. So there, the internal aspect triggered your need recognition. But you can also have an external trigger. For example, oftentimes at around lunchtime, if you're in your car, you'll start hearing commercials on the radio about different places to eat. This is a way to trigger that mechanism in your mind saying, oh yeah, I need to eat something. The second step, information search, is our desire to get as much information as we need to be able to make a decision about the problem that we've identified. When we're making a search for information, though, we're looking at how much information do you have, how easy is it to obtain information, what value do you place on information, and kind of what information do you need. For example, if you're on your way home and you get a call from your spouse saying, we need milk, that information search is probably not going to take very long. You know what store you're going to go to, you know what kind of milk you're going to buy, you're going to make the purchase and go on. But if it is something that you require a lot more information, such as a new car, new house, new computer, whatever, you're going to take more time to understand what product is going to solve the problem that you have, and you're also going to look at the different options that you may have in order to solve that problem. More information, more options if you will, doesn't always lead us to make the same choice. A couple of researchers set up a jam tasting booth at the entrance to a store, and every few hours they switched from offering either 24 or 6 flavors of the jam. They wanted to know which assortment attracted more people and also which would lead to higher sales. They observed people as they moved from their booth into the store and watched what happened when they hit the jam aisle. Now, what they found is that when there was 24 varieties, 60% of the people entering the store stopped. But when there was only 6 options, only 40% stopped. However, the shoppers who were presented with fewer options, 6 in this case, had a much easier time deciding what to purchase. Sales were a very different story. Of those presented with 24 options, only 3% purchased, while 30% of those exposed to the 6 options purchased. So having more choices is not always a better thing. Every year, marketers spend an enormous amount of money getting consumers to be aware of their products, because they've realized that a consumer can't buy a brand they don't know about. And this is where the evoke set model comes in. Think about a product category such as televisions. Of the dozens of brands that are available, some will be known to you, but other brands you've likely never have heard of, especially brands that are popular in other parts of the world. So if we look at those known brands, you will have several of these that will be acceptable to you, such as Sony, Panasonic, Samsung, etc. And there will be others that you would find unacceptable. But then there's a third group, the overlooked brands. These are brands that you've heard of before, but they just didn't register when you were thinking about brands of television. Now, if we look at those that are acceptable to you, you're going to find that there's one brand that you purchased and the others that you rejected. Marketers are always trying to find ways to get you, first, to know about a brand, second, to keep that brand in the top of mind when you're in that product category for a purchase, and others to make sure that it's acceptable to you in many different ways, because they want you to look at all of these ones. They want to be in the consideration set for which TV you're going to eventually buy. The next step in the buyer decision-making process is the evaluation of alternatives. Now, this process is going to vary depending on the type of product that we're looking at. For example, if we're looking at just a bag of chips that we're looking for at a vending machine, we're not going to use very deep evaluative processes. But if we're looking at something that's a little bit higher price, something that's a little bit more important to us, such say a television, for example, then we may use a very careful or logical process. We may look at the different attributes that each TV is offering, rank each one of them based on those attributes, look at price and how that comes into it. We may go out and seek advice from somebody that we consider to be an expert or a market maven in this case, in that category. And we're going to look through there trying to find out what's the best decision for us. For example, we may use something called the expectancy value model. And you may use this in your mind and not even realize it oftentimes, where we're going to look at the different attributes. In this case, we have 4 different models. We're looking at the different attributes for a new computer, such as, and we're going to look at, say, memory capacity, graphics capacity, size and weight, price, and we're going to basically assign a value to each of those as to which one is going to satisfy the needs that I have as a consumer. We're going to look at all of these, and for example, we can see in this example that Model A and Model D both equal out to about an 8. So we're going to narrow our choices down from 4 to 2 before making an ultimate purchase decision. So we've narrowed our options down, and we're ready to make the decision. We have made our choice. We're going to go with Model A, but we've decided on the brand, but we have not purchased. Here, choice can still be altered. In that regard, choice can be altered basically on the aspect of the opinion of others or something unexpected happening. For example, we walk into the store to buy our computer. I don't know why would anybody buy one in a store these days, but we walk into the store, we talk to somebody, we run into a friend of ours that we know is an IT specialist, and we're telling him what we're going to be buying, and he gives us a third choice. Or he tells us, yeah, you think you want A, but D is going to be better for you, and here's why. At the same time, we could also walk in knowing we're going to buy Model A, but they're out of stock. Or all of a sudden, we see a new piece of information, such as Model D has a $50 rebate, or Model D is on sale. All of this new information is going to change our mind, or can change our mind, and we could switch at that time. But we've made the decision, we're going to buy, we walk into the store to buy, and things can happen from there. In the final step of the decision-making process, you've made the purchase, you've enjoyed the purchase, but something in the back of your mind is just nagging at you. For example, let's say that you went out and had pizza for lunch, and it was great pizza. Everything was wonderful, but a couple hours later you realize, man, that had a lot of calories, or that was very filling, had a lot of sodium, whatever it was. Maybe I should have had a salad. So there was something that just didn't sit quite right with you in this decision-making process. It's going to alter your behavior for next time. One of the things that we look at is the aspect of cognitive dissonance, which this basically describes with the pizza and the salad. And you made a good decision, you thought, but again, there was some comfort based on it. You're going to look through the entire process. Did I make a good buy? Did I have enough information? Did I make the right decision at the store? And you're going to use this the next time you're in the market for a certain type of product. Oftentimes, automobile manufacturers, in order to alleviate cognitive dissonance, we will start to talk about how people made a good choice. You'll see advertisements for how good the automobile is, and they'll take that to heart. You'll get a call from either the sales manager or somebody from the dealership asking how things went, all in an effort to decrease that cognitive dissonance you may be having. So a review of the buying decision process, you realize you need new tires. You basically go out and do a search, whether that search is going to be online. You're going to go to a tire dealer and find information. You're going to evaluate the different tires that are out there. You're going to make your purchase. So you're going to take them home, and you're going to start to evaluate how well you did in making a decision. However, some of the decisions that we make are very routine, very low involvement decisions that we are not going to give much thought to. If we look at the 5-step process before, we may jump right from need recognition all the way down to the purchase decision. Others are going to be a little bit more limited, and then we're going to have extensive decisions that we're going to have to make, and we'll talk about those here. For example, if we think about routine buying decisions, again, low financial investment, you're going to only use internal information search, you're going to make a quick decision, and you're generally going to consider just one alternative. For example, if you go to the vending machine to buy a drink, you may only consider one certain drink every single time. You don't have to think, you just make the decision. In limited buying decisions, though, again, there is low financial investment, but you're going to have a little bit more involvement. Which chip do I want to buy this time? You may consider a few alternatives, and again, you'll likely use primary internal search unless new information has been coming to you through advertisements. However, for extensive buying decisions, we're going to use extensive external information search. We're going to gain as much information as we can. These are high financial investments. We're going to look at many different alternatives, and because that loss is so great, we're going to take a lot more time in making a decision. Now, one thing to point out is that extensive buying decision doesn't always mean financial investment, high financial investment. For example, let's say that your child is sick and you need to pick up some medicine at the over-the-counter medicine at the store to give to him. Well, it's not very expensive, but there is a high risk involved in giving them the wrong medicine. So you may ask the pharmacist, you may go through and call your doctor or get advice from someone else. Finally, in wrapping up our discussion on the buyer decision-making process, if you have an extensive search, if you have an extensive product that you're looking at, you're probably going to go through each of these steps very carefully. However, for a limited problem-solving experience, you're probably going to skip the information search, go right to evaluate the alternatives, and make your decision, and finally evaluation, which may not even occur for this type of product. But for a routine product, again, you may go right from need recognition all the way to the purchase decision, and there is never going to be any type of post-purchase evaluation unless something really goes wrong. All right, We'll talk next time about the consumer behavior aspect, looking at the psychological, social, and cultural factors that influence these decisions.